Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, jimjimjim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from the Nintendo Switch. This time I blast demons into a pulp in Doom 2016. Initially it launched on PC, Xbox One and PS4 in May 2016, it was surprisingly ported into Nintendo Switch in November 2017. Part of the legendary Doom series that dates back to 1993, it was the first new entry since Doom 3 in 2004. Created by id Software and ported by Panic Button, it was exciting to see such strong third-party support for the Switch so early on, and a rare shooter at that. Doom is a first-person shooter focusing on fast movement and aggressive tactics to take down an onslaught of enemies whilst exploring detailed environments. Though this game is a reboot, it sticks to its foundations with gameplay and running around feeling so good. It even has a fantastic double jump later on for even better motion around the levels. The story has Doomslayer waking up on Mars to find a facility that was taking energy from the actual hell was sabotaged by a researcher, letting all manner of demons through. The core aim is to stop all this killing everything. The levels themselves are interesting, interspersed with corridors and then more open areas with a large attack of enemies, and places to jump around and climb on for better vantage points. Looking at something like Sniper Elite and other more realistic shooters, you have to be methodical and try to preserve your ammo. It adds an interesting dynamic, though I love a game that encourages you to use all your weapons and ammo. In Doom, you are meant to use everything. You get health and ammo from melee attacks on glowing enemies. It's an incredible flow that you rarely see in any other game. Fight through the levels and take on big bosses are another big part of its broad appeal. This game actually looks ridiculous on Switch, particularly in handheld. It runs so well. Panic Button did an excellent port of this game, hitting a solid 30 frames per second for the most part, and keeping the gameplay running pretty smooth. I'm always a big fan of space vibes in any media, particularly when it looks futuristic but lived in as it does here. None of those sterile environments you often see with just labs and research bases. You get all these demons and the occult too. It actually touches upon a lot of classic sci-fi tropes, but wrap it up in this package lets it get away with it, and it's a lot of fun. The game was made on the internal id Tech 6 engine. With more and more studios moving towards Unreal Engine, it makes Doom stand out even more with its unique visuals. The early level design reminds me so much of the film Aliens, in a good way, with all the metal bars and vertical facilities, particularly seeing the deep blood red against the grey concrete and bright yellow bars. Actually, the 3D map is also excellent, one of the best in any games. Shoutouts to the multiple colorblind options that's also available here. The soundtrack's composer was Mick Gordon, an Australian sound designer, composer, producer and musician. Alongside releasing multiple albums, he's collaborated with Bring Me the Horizon and Architects, but is best known for his work since 2006 on video game sound design and soundtracks. Working on varied titles such as Need for Speed The Run, Destroy All Humans 2 and Prey, he won multiple awards for his Doom soundtrack, including the Game Awards Best Sound/Music Design. The soundtrack absolutely rips. It's a great rock album with shredding guitars and uber tempo drums. Really hits the spot when you're playing, keeping you motivated to smash up enemies constantly. As for the sound design, the screams are as visceral as the visual gore. These roars are piercing and often from an unknown source, adding to the torment. Add in the explosions, gunfire and the excellent voice acting. It's not difficult to see why this game so quickly attained multiple awards for its sound and music design. Allied to the relentless combat in this game are the upgrades and hidden items and secrets. This is what drives the player through the later levels. First up, seeing how they can improve their arsenal, suit and runes. They power up the character rather than drastically altering one's playstyle, but it's always satisfying to get a new unlock. The guns in particular are a core part of this. For instance, giving the standard shotgun a grenade launcher, which is a huge help in crowd control. These weapons become absolutely wild and have some real heft to them with HD rumble. With the Praetor suit you can upgrade to resist barrel explosions or switch weapons faster. The runes unlock other abilities like more ammo dropping, they can also be upgraded. It's always good when you have something to look to beyond to get to the end of the level to work towards. At launch there weren't many FPS titles available on Switch, and none that are this filled with horror and gore. While sounding off-putting, it's actually a lot of fun to play, pretty charming for all it's meant to be disgusting. It's funny that the original titles caused so much pushback and hand-wringing across society when they now feel relatively tame and entertaining. Take the environmental hazards of barrels causing huge explosions and blood flying everywhere. It's comical violence that can be appreciated in modern times, though this is still an 18 rated game in the UK. The single player game takes about 12 hours or so to finish, or double that to find every secret, including mini Doom guys and levers that open up classic levels from the original games. There's also an arcade mode, which lets you play with all upgrades unlocked from the start, allowing you to blast your way through super fast. As you can imagine, it has a huge speedrunning community, with the 80% run down to under 17 minutes. The game also includes multiplayer. Though a huge hit back in the day, this received a much more muted response from fans, and additionally on Switch takes up a lot of memory to install. However, the title received several free DLCs, which included 3 new maps in the Demon for multiplayer. id Software are famous for the Doom, Quake and Wolfenstein games, all of which redefined the FPS in the 1990s. The studio formed in 1991 in Louisiana with founders Adrian Carmack, Tom Hall, John Carmack and John Romero, the latter two in particular famous among game devs for their boundary-pushing designs and prolific output. Their first big release was Commander Keen, a side-scrolling platformer on PC before creating the grandfather of FPS games in Wolfenstein 3D in 1992. The following year saw the original Doom before Quake coming out in 1996. It's incredible to look back now and just see how much these changed how games and game devs were seen. These guys were so cool. Well worth reading Masters of Doom by David Kushner, which gives an excellent and eye-opening story of how id Studio worked during this time. Eventually the four would leave the company and be bought by ZeniMax in 2009, then Microsoft in 2020. The studio continues to mainly focus on Doom, with a sequel in Doom Eternal released in 2020 on Switch, and a prequel Doom the Dark Ages coming out in 2025. Doom 2016 currently sits at a respectable 79 on Metacritic for Switch, which is down from the 85 on other devices. I understand that visuals and performance will take a hit when coming to a much lower powered device, but it's remarkable for me how well it stacks up. If it's the only way you can play it, that's more than good enough. Rightly receiving a glut of award nominations such as BAFTA's Music and Audio Achievements, Golden Joystick Game of the Year, it actually managed to win Outstanding Achievement and Original Music Composition at DICE, and Best Music/Sound Design and Best Action Game at the Game Awards. Prior to launching on Switch, it had already gone on to sell 2 million copies, and will be the 4th best-selling game for Switch in the UK in its debut week. Surprisingly, this is my very first Doom game. Having been a big PC player in the 90s, I only really played a bit of Wolfenstein at a friend's. It was an absolute blast to play through though, in particular in handheld mode, which is still a massive novelty back in 2017. Weirdly, the gameplay style of high progression and lots of melee finishes is basically how I played Halo on Legendary mode. It's quite unsuited for that title, but doable. It's ideal for Doom. As for complaints, the story is good but pretty avoidable while playing. A lot of go to point A and press something. It's not why you come to this series, though the reboot did a great job of making it go beyond anything in the originals. As typical on Switch, there can be some long loading screens between levels, bearable but worth noting. It can occasionally be a little confusing where to go without using the map. Also, R-stick for the button press is a little weird. The game can also get tough, not so much as a complaint as more of a warning/recommendation for it. You can actually pick up most of the original Doom games on Switch, alongside the sequel Doom Eternal. Considering both dropped to a ridiculously low price during sales, it is well worth a pickup. The much more powerful Switch 2 will see a lot more games coming to it, including the future Call of Duty games, meaning that Doom won't have the FPS space all to itself. Still, I'm hopeful that Doom the Dark Ages comes across to Switch 2 in the future as well, as this series is just such a fun place to rock out and gore it up. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more weekly Nintendo Switch video and essays, and comment below which Doom game is your favourite. Right, time for me to go rip through the early levels with the BFG.